20 years ago, it was tough and hard, full of gangs, violence, drugs, shootings, murders. I didn't like coming outside when I was a child.
I remember my first interaction with the police was at, I think, 8 years old. I remember being scared. And it was just probably like, hey, how you doing? And I was still scared.
When I was in 4th grade, my principal, Mr. Daly, got shot. He was the principal at Pierce 15. He was caught in a crossfire where 2 teams were shooting out at each other, and he was struck and killed right then and there.
And it's hard to say that, you're scared of the officers, because when you're in trouble, those people you want to call. And now, even as a young adult in my teens, I felt persecuted.
Today, Red Hook is better. I go outside now. I raise my son out here. I have a lot of family out here. There's a lot of job opportunities. There's no gunfire like it used to be, so we're able to sit outside. The kids is able to play in peace.
My interaction with the police, they got better progressively as time went by. I feel like, I can shake hands. Before, I knew I had kept my hands up as soon as they saw me, like, hey, what are you doing? Put my hands up. And now it's like, hey, how you doing? Put my hand out. And I think that right there shows how the difference is.
I currently own my business now, but I have worked there for the past 40 years. I could recall on a Monday morning coming to work, and we were dreading the 9 o'clock calls, whether they be residential claims, residential break-ins, commercial break-ins, and it was just a sign of the times back then. And I'm happy to say through the years it has drastically decreased, and my phone doesn't ring on Monday mornings for those claim type of phone calls.
I grew up in the early 2000s in Port Richmond and New Brighton in Staten Island. In the early 2000s, the relationship between the police and the community, it had a lot of tension. After the death of Eric Gardner, it was an extremely low point between the community and the police. On Staten Island, you had to join a side. It was either you were Blue Lives Matter or you were Black Lives Matter. It was no in between. In the past few years, the police have been doing an amazing job trying to repair the community and the police relationship. When they first rolled out the NCO program, it was exciting to know that they are actually making moves to improving those relationships with the cops in the community. So let's make it a great 2018, a great 2019 and beyond. Let's continue to build the relationship and build up the community.
I am president of Jackson Heights Indian Merchant Association for more than 20 years. The merchants were scared, our customers were scared to come to Jackson Heights because of the crime, because of chain snatching, car breaking, even robberies. See, when my daughter was opening a jewelry store, there 2 guys came and they came with guns. They forced her to open the store. They took 2 bags full of jewelry. When one guy was caught and one guy took jewelry worth $100,000. And right now, there are no car breaking, there are no chain snatching, there's no crime on 74th Street. The customers are very comfortable, the merchants are very comfortable, everything is normal, and we feel very comfortable with the efforts of the 115 police station.
The reason we're very comfortable today is that the police officers come to my office on a regular basis. Whenever there's new officers coming in the ground, we talk to one another, we exchange ideas. So there's a constant dialogue. The thing that stuck with me all these years is that I have a classmate that was living in Chinatown saying that most of his other classmates didn't make it to college because there were a lot of recruitment for gangs and end up being the victims of the fighting. Today, where they're comfortable in talking to the police officers, you have there's a level of communication, constant communication, and so this is one of those things that you can see the contrast between then and now.
We remember going outside to play with our kids, and you have to do a sweep first. And we're picking up needles, we're picking up crack vials, we're picking up all these things that we didn't want to see our kids be exposed to. What was it like in the 90s dealing with the police? You know what? Dealing with the higher-ups, when I say higher-ups, like the commanding officers, you could still have the open doors, you had the community officers, still the open doors, but you couldn't talk to anyone else. So it was almost like fool's gold.
For a long time, I've never had a personal experience between the NYPD and myself until I reached high school.
One of the things we've done here at Renaissance Youth Center is that we started an NYPD band. So through the 4-2 precinct, we have a band that goes out and play, and they play with young people, with teenagers.
Mr. Reverend Harris mentioned that they played instruments and they wanted to play with us. So after an hour of feeling uncomfortable and feeling weird because we don't really have interactions with NYPD, we started playing and the music took over. And it was more of like, wow, like music does this? Like this, we're just regular people playing instruments. And that's when I realized that NYPD is nothing to be afraid of.
Today, the Bronx has changed so much for the better. Now you see an officer, they're gonna say hello. We're saying hello. And the youth interact with the officers so much. They exchange cell numbers, right? I bumped into an officer the other day. He says, one of your kids approached me on the street and asked for a ride home, right? That's hysterical to me because before they would never even approach you, let alone ask you for a ride home. So that tells us what? Healing is beginning. As a matter of fact, healing has happened. And now we're ready to move on as a community with the police and the community together.